Okay, we're going to start up with the pretest now. So hopefully you've all received a copy of the notes if you've needed a set of them. Ask for them right now so that you could follow along. First problem that we have on the pretest, it has an equation. It says 7x plus 8y equals 1. Okay? So here we want to solve for y. It says in the problem, solve for y. So we're going to end up with y on one side of the equation and everything else on the other side. Okay? The end product, we want something that's going to look like this here, where it's going to say y equals something. All right? And we need to fill that in. That's what that means, solve for y, where we have y by itself. So let's use the same principles that we've been using all along for stripping away whatever is in our way of getting to y, getting to our goal. So the first thing I have here is I have a 7x that's in my way. It's a positive 7x. So the opposite of positive 7x would be negative 7x. So if I subtract 7x from each side of the equation, this cancels out on this side here, and I'm left with positive 8y equals minus 7x plus 1, or 1 minus 7x. You could write it either way. Okay? In fact, I'll write it that way since that's how it was in the notes. We had it 1 minus 7x. See, I had the positive 1 minus 7x. So now that tells me what 8y is. But I want to know what 1y is. I want to, so I'm going to need, I have a multiplication here. The opposite of that would be dividing. So I'm going to divide each side by 8. The 8's cancel out here, and I get y equals 1 minus 7x, or 7x minus 1. I'm sorry, 1 minus 7x over 8. And that's it. Okay? I know it looks complicated, but see, we got to our goal where we got y on one side of the equation. Okay, number 2, we have a graph there. So I have a graph up on the board for us to utilize. And in the graph, it shows a line. Now that line, it's kind of difficult. With some of these graphs, you're going to need to use like a straight edge, a ruler, or the edge of your paper in order to really draw that straight line. But it shows a line that's crossing the y-axis at 3. Okay, so it's crossing at 3. And I really tried to make a note of that on the notes. So it says on the figure, and that line is going generally in this direction. It looks something like this here, where it's going upwards like that. It says on the figure, can you see a graph of the equation y equals x plus c? Now that parameter c, is the y-intercept. We wrote it in our slope-intercept form. We wrote y equals mx plus b. And we said that m was the slope of the line, but b, that plus or minus b, was the y-intercept. So in this case here, the y-intercept, where it crosses the y-line, is at 3. That's all they're really asking you for with this problem. So number 2, the answer is A. The answer is C equals 3. The y-intercept is 3. Okay, number 3, they have a similar graph. And on this graph, it shows a line that's crossing the y-intercept at 4. Okay? And the line is generally going upwards to the right. Now, again, this is one where you need a straight edge to really be able to draw it out. Because it's asking you the graph of this line, what's the equation for it? So we're looking at a line and we're trying to figure out the equation. So the answer is going to look something like this here. Y equals mx plus b. So we know it's going to be y equals, we got to figure out what b is. I told you b is crossing at 4 on the y-axis. So we could plug that in there at positive 4. The only thing left to figure out is what's the slope. Well, the slope is going up and to the right, So that's positive. It's a positive slope, but we need to figure out how much is going up. If I go down from 4 down to 3, and then I go across 1, 2, and -3, that's where that line is crossing, is at -3. And then it goes down again here. So that's sort of what that line is looking like. And then it goes upwards in this way here. Okay, so we're trying to determine the slope of this line. That's the only thing we have left to answer, is what is m? What is the slope of the line? So I started by using the y-intercept as my first point. The y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. So x is 0, and y in that case is 4. Then I came down one step to 3. And then I went over until I came back to the line again. And I crossed the line at x equals -3. So here, x is -3, and there y is 3. Okay, see, I went from 4 to 3. So if I look at my rise and run, to go from this lower point to the upper point, I had to go up one step. So my rise is 1, and my run is 1, 2, 3. So my rise goes on top. The change in y goes on top, and the run, the change in x, goes on the bottom. So in that case there, my slope is 1/3. So the equation for that line would be y equals 1/3 plus 4. That's letter D.